Hello and welcome back to the next part and also the final part of my How I Would Have Built Mike Bloomfield's Guitar series. And here the guitar is hanging right now. We don't need it right now, we'll need it soon. We're gonna make a new pickguard. Here is the pickguard that came with the kit and that you've seen on the guitar so far. It doesn't fit any longer, and if you look at how his guitar looks after it's been modified, you can see that they've cut the pickguard in a weird way to make it work for them, so that their hand doesn't get cut into the pickguard when they play the higher frets. You can obviously take this pickguard here and chop away a little bit of this pickguard right up here and make it work. I would most likely do that if I didn't have the tools available to me to make a new pickguard. And so I have decided that I'm going to make a new pickguard. I've planed down some wood and made a very thin piece of board that I'm going to use as pickup material. Now you don't need to make a pickguard out of wood. If I use wood and I stain it black so that you can see the grain through, it will be a nice contrast. The white body, the black pickguard, I think it will look really nice. And if I'm not pleased, I can always go back and make a new one out of plastic pickguard sheets. You can buy them everywhere, on Amazon, on eBay, guitar stores have them too sometimes. They're not that super expensive, so you can go that way. What I'm gonna do will apply anyway. So let's get started. Okay, so here's the body, the neck is attached, and we're gonna start off working on it. I have the old pickguard here, and as you can see, fits nicely except for up here. And we're gonna keep certain elements of this, and we're gonna have some other things going around and get some new inspiration. This is just basically inspiration and nothing more. If you don't like something that I show you, you don't need to do things exactly like I do. I'm gonna do something that I think looks nice and that I think will fit, and you can do things however you want. And you can do something super simple, like just covering up this part here, or just, you know, a tiny little just double pickguard like this that goes out here and is just mirrored like this, with not the hole up here maybe, but otherwise perfectly just a mirror. You could actually even buy two pickguards and cut them in half and put them together and just have a seam in the middle. Could be really cool. You could even make that seam nicer by doing an inlay as well. I'm not gonna do that, at least not in this video. If you think that's a cool idea, maybe I'll, do it in another video or something, but you could definitely do something like that. Make it simple for yourself, Anyway, so the first thing we're gonna do is we are gonna trace out this pickguard on the piece of wood we have. So here's the piece of wood, and here I have my tracing knives. I have a video where I tell you about them in more detail. It's a guitar builder's life hack video, so if you're interested in, you can watch them. But basically all there are knives that only have one edge. So they're flat on one side and they have a bevel here. And I have one for cutting with my left hand, and I have one for cutting with my right hand. And it's just a matter of how the blade moves, because the flat side is towards what you're tracing. So we're gonna start off by putting our pickguard down, and I'm gonna hold it in place, and I'm gonna take a knife, and I'm gonna take the knife that I need to trace, and I'm just gonna cut into the wood. And by cutting with a knife that has only bevel on one side, I will get a close connection that is perfect, a mirror. I don't have to think about things like the thickness of the pen I'm using and what did that do to the transfer. I just have to think about the actual shape. And here, when I hold the knife here, all of a sudden the blade is on the wrong side because I'm flipping it around. And so I have to just come back like this. And here, when I'm going here, you can see the edge is on the wrong side again. So I have to move back. And so it's really good to have this knives, and then here I have to move it again, because to whatever it is you're tracing, the back needs to be. So now we can move this away, and I don't know if you can see, the lines in the material, but I have I've made a line here that matches this, and I've made a line here that matches this. And now I'm just going to do it again, but I'm going to flip Pickguard over and I'm going to match it up to what I've already made. And now I can just keep tracing, and I'll trace this horn out here. And the reason why I want to do this first is because I want to make this neck pocket here, and I want to make this bridge pocket here, so that I can freestyle the rest of the Pickguard. So I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to cut this out real quick, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back here with the Pickguard now, and I've cut a sleeve in like this for where the bridge go, and it's just a copy of the Pickguard, so they match up pretty well. I've also cut out the beginning of the horns and the neck pocket, and it's just because these measurements right here are the ones that I feel are relevant to the design of the guitar. This is where things need to match up. How things move in this direction is what we're going to talk about now and what we're going to work on. It's going to be a little bit hard for you to see when I've drawn in lines, but hopefully you'll get somewhat of an idea of what I'm doing. And I'm going to show you how I did all the cutting out of this when I do the other parts. It's just that you don't need to see all of it. The only thing you need to know is I took extra care and extra long time cutting out these particular shapes, just because that's where things are gonna have to be perfect in their matching up with the body. So let's put this on the body and see what happens. Also, you can see some white dots in the Pickguard here. I had to put in some acrylic fillers to make the wood a little bit stronger, because this is a very thin piece of wood. You're not gonna have to do that if you have really hard wood or if you're using plastic or metal or anything like that. But this is very soft and brittle wood. So here is the body, and hopefully you can see, you're gonna get better picture later on, but you can see like the upper horn here, for example, where I've spent most of my time. It fits really nicely there, and the neck pocket looks really nice. I'm gonna put the bridge on just so I can do some measurements and see how things look. And basically now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find a way to make the shapes. For example, I don't feel like I need Pickguard right here. A very fine point pen, and I'm just going to draw out. And I like to draw very softly so that I can easily erase it. I'm going to try to find a way to move this line here in a bit. So I can move this in a bit, and then maybe move it in, break the angle a little bit, move it back again. And again and again. Somewhere around here, a little round off screw, and an organic flowing shape. And I know I did that really quickly, and some of you might be like, I don't understand what you did, but I'm basically trying to see movements in the guitar. This horn has a line that goes down like this, and I'm trying to soften it up, not just making a completely straight, like dead line, because everything is very smooth and organic and every line here flows, so I'm trying to make this float a little bit. If I were going to make the Pickguard go to the back of here, I might have actually gone something like this, you know, just to try to prove my point or whatever. So by thinning it out up here and just breaking that a little bit so that it feels almost like the lines are V'ing out from each other like this, I can create a sense of movement or something. And I can use my triangle here. I don't know why I have forgotten all words, to make a mark here so that I can be like, okay, parallel to there is that. So I can move on making something else. I'm just gonna finalize this line a little bit, and then we'll move on to drawing the end down here. So I'll be back in 5 seconds when I've looked at this for a couple of minutes and then decided how I want things. Okay, so I'm back. Here is the guitar with the Pickguard on, and this is the way it looks right now. I've redefined and shapen this side here, and I've rounded it over and made somewhat of a natural cut. I've also made a cut here. I had this idea that I would be inspired by a telecaster thin line and also a little bit of a Stratocaster, and tried to find a way of make this look older than it actually is, just because we're supposed to be making a pickguard for a 1963 telecaster, and so maybe working from those specs we can get somewhere. We have to keep the theme of this line going, so I can hold this up to this and I can clamp it into place with my hand like this, and I can see that here would be the line to go through. Now I can start working on how I would want this pickguard to look. And I'm going to take it off the body and hold it like this for a bit. And basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to make this look a bit like a Telecaster thin line pickguard down here, and see if I can match things up a little bit. So just draw in a couple of lines. Something like that, maybe, I don't really know. Feels a little bit too much that way. But then again, we have to think about where we put things. So I think I'm going to move this back a little bit. Maybe have this line go down a little bit more so it feels a little bit more. Try to look at the pickguard, hold it up to yourself. This is what it looks like right now. And just try to visualize the flow of things and how they look and how they move. Like for example, this line here doesn't work too well with this line here now. So maybe I'll have to, like, you know. But also this line here goes well together there. This is how I work when I design a guitar. I try to see lines, I try to see where one curve goes into another and find symmetry, even if it's not symmetrical. And it might seem strange and weird. I really want things to look like they're where they're supposed to be. So I try to figure out, and I think I have to, if I'm going to keep this going like this, I feel like here we have a little bit of an issue. Maybe I should go up. I don't know. I think this line here needs to be pushed up a little bit. Okay, so after redrawing some lines and measuring some and looking at the pickguard and then looking at it on the guitar and going back and forth for a while to make sure I'm perfectly happy, this is what I'm gonna cut out now. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my special blades that I showed you in one of my Guitar Builder's life hack. And the reason why is because they're super fine-toothed, and so I will be able to cut some of this out without any wood splinters. I'm gonna cut about maybe 2 millimeters away from the lines I've drawn, and the reason why is because this is very thin and it will very easily break. And so I'm going to do my very best to cut far away. And then we're going to move on to the next step and I'm going to film some more. So first off, we're going to plug it into this. I'm going to put on ear protection and just cut away a little bit of wood. And when I move the blade this way, the fibers of the wood are going that way, and so it won't chip out. So I can get a little bit closer to the line, but if I were to cut this way, I would have to be extra careful not to have any chip outs, and I would most likely take a knife and carve in a line for chip outs to break at. Let's get this piece out though. Okay, so here's the pickguard. Now a rough cut out. We're going to clean up these lines, and I'm going to do it on my Orbital Sander. I'm going to film that to show you just a little bit of how I do it, and then we're going to move on to the next step. But just so you know, there are other tools you can use. For example, you can use files and sandpaper, and you can slowly move up to the lines that you're going to cut out. You don't need to have every tool that I have just to be able to build guitars. Some tools are unnecessary, but they make things go very fast. And so you can, get more done, basically. And an Orbital Sander is one of those things. It makes some of the steps in building guitars a little bit easier. And so if you're planning on making more than one guitar, I would recommend getting one. They're also a lot of fun to work with. So let's just move over to the Orbital Sander and see what happens. Okay, so now I have to decide where I want to have the holes. I was actually about to forget it, but I think I'm just going to use this as a template, and I'm going to put this somewhere around there maybe, and then I'm just going to take a pen and mark out where I want these. Then, because this is a little bit off, I'm gonna move it around a little bit. So I'm just gonna push this up a little bit and to the side, something like that, and mark it out. And I think that's gonna look perfectly fine. I'll have my tone and my volume, and I'll have my three-way switch. And I don't really have to think that much about it, because I know that these two, the switch and the first tone pot, they are the distance on the plate. I don't really have to think so much more about it than that. The next part is the pickup, and I don't know what pickup I'm gonna end up with, to be perfectly honest. I might actually end up with a P90 or a humbucker. I have a green telecaster that is inspired by Johnny Marr. Maybe you've seen the videos. It has a humbucker, and I kind of like that. So maybe this guitar will end up with a P90. I don't actually know. I might also just add another pickup back here. We'll see. Nothing is set in stone yet. So now I'm just going to cut these out. It's going to be fairly easy. I'm going to drill a tiny hole there and a tiny hole there. And I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm just going to cut and cut and cut and cut. Just go like this until I'm through. These two holes and these two holes I'm just going to drill out with drill bits, and the same thing here. I'm just going to drill the tiny little holes out, and then I'm going to drill two bigger holes here and just cut with a razor blade back and forth until I'm done. And then we'll paint this. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so here's the pickguard. I've put it on some paper because I don't want to mess up my working area. And here I have a wood stain that I'm going to use. I'm going with black because the body is white. That's basically all there is to it. And I'm just going to flood it and let it soak in. And as you can see, it's very faint. And so we are going to have to put on a lot of layers to get the nice black pickguard that I want. And we're just going to leave this to dry now. And I'll be back real soon with a nicely covered pickguard. Okay, so here's the pickguard right now. What I did was I just painted it with the black stain a couple of times until I got this nice charcoal black finish that I was going for. I could have had lesser and made it more grayish, but I like the idea of the guitar being really white and the pickguard being really black to create a really nice contrast. I then, after it dried, put on a layer of clear coat. I put on a pretty thick layer because I knew it would sink into the wood a lot. And so here we have it right now. And in the spots where it's more shiny is where the lacquer hasn't gone in as deep. But I'm pretty pleased with the way it looks. If we flip it over, it looks like this, and it's not terribly good looking, but it doesn't really matter because no one is going to see this side. Here I have shielding tape, and we're going to put a little bit of that on the back of this, just because we want to stop some of the interfering from playing the guitar. I'm just going to cut a piece like this, and I'm going to first put one piece here. And so we take off this backing, revealing the adhesive, and then we can just stick it down. Then we take something like, for example, a hammer, which has a nice flat surface, and we just move it across to make sure we get a really nice bond. And here it hangs over the edge a little bit, so we take a razor blade and we cut a little bit on the inside, like so. And then we can peel this back, and now it won't be seen from the other side. And we have to do the same thing, cutting away the tape on the pickup cavity, just so that the pickup can go through. We're going to put a piece here as well, and I'm just holding it up, seeing where is a good place to cut it. If I fold it, I have a mark there. I'm going to take my razor blade and I'm just going to cut it away. And I'm removing the back again, just like I did on the other piece, and I'm sticking it down somewhere like this. And then I'm cutting away so that this tiny piece here where it sticks out can be removed so that you don't see anything on the other side. And now I'm gonna put this pickguard on the guitar and we'll see what it all looks like when it's all neat and finished. I'm gonna go maybe 5 mil on the inside and just drill a couple of holes so that the screws can hold this pickguard in place. And we'll take a look at the guitar. So wait a couple of seconds and you'll see hopefully something cool. So here's the guitar right now. This is the way it looks, the body at least. The headstock looks the same as always. And I'm fairly happy with the way it looks. To be honest, it turned out, in my opinion, better than expected. I really like the sort of rustic look, if you will, of the pickguard, together with the relic guitar body. Now, I understand that some of you are going to be like, why did you relic the body? We don't like relic guitars, it's ugly with relic guitars. And the thing is, first of all, if you like relic guitars, you don't have to apologize for liking relic guitars. You're allowed to like whatever you like. Second of all, this was supposed to be Mike Bloomfield's guitar, and if you've seen that guitar, you know that it's relicked. And if it's relicked by hand or by playing, you know, it doesn't really matter. I went into this as if I was going to actually make a new pickguard for him. And so I was trying to make something that seemed like it would match. It looks kind of weird when you have a guitar that is old looking, but all the hardware looks brand new. I know the hardware looks brand new on this guitar, but that's because I'm gonna switch all these parts out at some point, and so I don't really feel like wasting the time on making them look old when I'm not going to keep them anyway. And this is obviously a kit guitar and not an old guitar. I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. The tuners on this guitar right now are not that great, so if the guitar is a little bit out of tune, it's because a couple of chords into playing and you need to retune it. I can't really do anything about that except changing the tuners out, though I'm going to have to do that later on. If you have any cool ideas for tuners I could use, let me know. The next thing is the bridge. If I wanted to make this look even more like a left-handed guitar and not a right-handed guitar made into a left-handed guitar, I would switch this out, and I'm gonna switch this out. I'm gonna switch this out to a bridge that is angled the other way around. Basically, this way. But there are a couple of things about that you need to think about, and the first thing is, when you switch things out, usually that will make the guitar behave differently. So if you have a guitar you really love, it might not be a good idea to switch the bridge out, because you might actually, you know, change the way it feels and sounds. The same thing with a nut. If you like the nut that is in, even though you know that, you know, it's plastic or something, changing it out for bone might not be a good idea. If you like what's on the guitar and you feel like it's magic, then beware of changing things, because they might actually not improve the guitar. They might also make the guitar better, you know, but be careful. I don't feel like changing this bridge here could damage this guitar in any way. It could only improve it. That's because I really dislike this bridge. As I've said in my review of this kit, I am very sure I could bend this by just my hands. So yes, I'm gonna change the bridge out. I'm gonna change all the hardware and the electronics and all that out at some point, but it's not relevant to this build. If you want to follow up on how I would do those things and what I did later down the line, leave a comment below letting me know that you're interested, because obviously I don't need a follow-up video to my own guitars. I own them. But if you're interested in seeing something like that, let me know. I was also gonna do a carve, armrest carve, and a belly carve on the back side. I have a very simple and easy way to add those to a guitar that are like quick and easy things you can do. But I actually like this guitar. I've been playing it for a couple of hours now, and I actually like it, so I don't want to do it to this guitar. So I'm thinking that if you are interested in seeing how to do that quick and easy, I'll do a separate video for that on a different guitar or on a scrap piece of wood. But anyway, I'm gonna plug this into my little practice amp here. It's one of those cheap Fender amps that you get when you start out, and it's just because I feel like this is so much a starter guitar. I haven't changed anything on this guitar for better parts or anything like that. The only thing I've really added that you couldn't get in the kit was an extra screw for the pickguard, because I made a new pickguard. Obviously the pickguard is also a new part. But anyway, I'm going to plug it into this and play it through this, so you have sort of a idea of what it sounds like if you're interested. And if you also haven't seen the review where I already played it. But nothing should have really changed, except I used another amp. So yes, let's plug it into the amp. First I'm going to tune it, because it's just me filming this part here. It's already out of tune. And you'll get to hear what it sounds like and get a little bit more close-ups. And hopefully you like the guitar, and hopefully you like the video series. Let me know in the comments below what you think and feel about it all. And if you wouldn't mind sharing this with other people that might be interested, I would be very happy if you did. I'm very bad at exposing myself to the networks, so if you help me out, I appreciate it. Anyway, until next time, stay awesome and cool, and go and make a wooden custom pickguard for one of your guitars, because I feel like it's a win.